You're listening to episode 68 of The Marketer's Mindset with Brian Burkhardt. Welcome back to The Marketer's Mindset, the podcast where we talk about how to create and sustain an empowering mindset to help you build a successful online business and lead a happy and abundant life. My guest today defines the term digital nomad. After working as a copywriter with major corporations such as Microsoft, Apple, HP, Barclays Bank, and AT&T, he began to see the potential of this thing we call the internet. And in 1988, he said goodbye to his last full-time job and ventured into the online world to launch his own business. Over 20 years later, he has made millions of dollars online, all while traveling the globe with his family. As the CEO of Go Freelance, he's helping entrepreneurs worldwide to create independent online careers as freelancers and online business owners. So please welcome to the show probably the world's very first digital nomad and personal finance blogger, Rob Palmer.
Hey, Brian, it's great to be on the podcast. Thanks so much to be on the show.
Yes, definitely. Like I said, I'm really looking forward to our conversation. You have so much experience in the online world, and I know there's so many people out there that are either fed up with their 9-to-5 job and they want to leave it, or they want to build something on the side. So I think we're going to really dive in and get some really good information because, like I said, you've got this experience. You've gone from the very, wild, wild west beginnings of the internet when there really wasn't anybody as an individual making money online. It was more just corporations using it. So I want to hear this story and really dive into this with you.
Yeah, sure. Okay. In fact, so when I started, really, even the corporations weren't using it. It was really just a few kind of nerdy types who had their kind of bulletin boards. But for most businesses, they had no idea what the internet was or what it could do for them. So it was certainly an interesting time to get started.
So what were your thoughts then, Rob? You decided to leave the corporate world. I understand you were doing like freelance and doing copywriting for some big corporations. What was going through your mind? Obviously, you had a vision and saw that there was a lot of potential with the internet.
Yeah, it's something I came across the internet as part of a project I was doing for a telecoms company. And as soon as I got involved, I could see that this really had the potential to open up communications on an international scale and really kind of change the way we work. And I was really excited to get involved from day one. And like you say, it really was the Wild West that we didn't have any of the kind of tools and apps and training or anything else that we have today. It was very much a hands-on. You had to get into it and do things the hard way with coding and really a lot of technical things to get even basic things started. But it was really interesting as well, and had the potential I could see to change the way we live. And obviously that's definitely happened, and it's been really fun to be part of that huge global change.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, with all that experience, I'm sure you've helped a lot of people throughout the years. And that's one thing that I admire is people that have that vision that can kind of see something and look at the big picture of what it could actually be and how it can benefit them. So I think that's huge. Now, did you grow up in an entrepreneurial family or any background or relatives that were entrepreneurs?
No, not at all. And my family were very much kind of get a 9 to 5 job and do that until you're 65 kind of people. So I've never had any kind of encouragement to be entrepreneurial. But I always felt that I never fitted into that kind of very conventional lifestyle. I always wanted to do my own thing. I wasn't quite sure what it was going to be, but I was always pretty sure it wouldn't be having a steady job and doing that for 40 years. That the thought of that I always found very depressing. So I naturally kind of gravitated towards entrepreneurial things, and I set myself up as a freelance writer when I was in my kind of early 20s, even though I had zero experience that kind of qualified me to do that, and just kind of made things work from there. So I've really enjoyed the journey, and it's been really fascinating to see how the technology has changed, and everything around it has changed, but the basics of how people think and how they communicate hasn't changed all that much. We're still human beings. We just now have this amazing technology that enables us to do things in a different way.
Yeah, I think that's key. What you said right there is there's, and I've talked with this with my friends too that are marketers and business owners. Is once there's core principles that stay the same. You're always going to have new platforms or ways to market, but the concept of communicating with individuals, portraying a message, getting someone to take action, those are some fundamental principles. Would you agree?
Absolutely. In fact, when I'm doing copywriting and sales copywriting, the basic principles I use haven't changed certainly since I started, and they're the old principles of ethos, logos, and pathos, which is so that's kind of logic, authority, and emotion, and they all come from Aristotle. So that's ideas which are 2,500 years old. Is what the Greeks used to persuade and convince people in these kind of rhetorical arguments all those thousands of years ago. And those principles still work exactly the same way today. So if you want to persuade someone to do something, the way you do it hasn't changed that much. It's just the technology that gets your message out there that does change. But the way you persuade people is still exactly the same.
For the listeners that out there that aren't really delved into or aren't familiar with the propers of copywriting, what is a formula? What can you share with them as a formula that you use to take someone either through a video that you're using to sell or a written sales letter that you follow to communicate that message and to transition them to a sale?
Yeah, well, those really are the three kind of core principles that underlie it. The first thing is ethos. You have to establish credibility. No one's going to buy from you unless they trust you. So that's why it's really important to have things like testimonials and whatever qualifications, certifications, reviews, those kind of things. They kind of establish that you have some kind of credibility so people will trust you. And once you have that, then you need to focus on the kind of emotional argument, the pathos, because we make decisions based on emotion rather than logic. But once you've made that decision, we then kind of justify it with logical reasons. So then you also need the facts and the figures to back everything up. And if you get those three elements right, then you find it so much harder, so much easier to make the sale. What you're always trying to do, you're trying to move people along a line. People are always trying to move away from some kind of pain and towards some kind of pleasure. So you're trying to figure out how to move people along that line. And the bigger the shift you can make, the further you can move them along that line, then the greater the value that what you have is worth to them, and the more you can charge, and the easier it is to make the sale. And that's basically it. I still work to those basic principles, and they still work just fine.
Now, Rob, in your experience, do you find it's a good balance in your copywriting to have, some scarcity and fear based, as well as some, moving towards, obviously the lifestyle you want to create that image and stuff, but also the fear base? Or do you think it's more effective um, with people focusing on the loss part, what they're missing out by not taking action?
Yeah, I tried to hit both ends. You want the carrot and the stick if you can do it. Certainly, the kind of fear is a powerful motivator, and things like scarcity and urgency can work really well, but only if they're genuine. We've all seen kind of offers where you have the fake timer, it's timing down, you have to buy this in 5 minutes, but you know perfectly well that if you refresh the page in 5 minute times, the timer is going to restart, and you can do it over again. Those kind of things don't work so well. But if you have some genuine scarcity or urgency built into your offer, like if it's a live event and you've only got room for 100 people, then that's genuine, and you can use that to advantage. So as long as you're authentic in what you're doing, those things can work very well. And yeah, certainly you use everything you can to move people along the line, as long as you have a product or a service that's worth what you're charging. So if you have a great product or service that people should want to buy, then you should be quite happy to use whatever strategies you need to get them across the line.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I love how you touched on the fact that it needs to be authentic, because you see so many people online that do that. They have the fake timers, or, this is, I only have this many spots. And then you come back later and, with all the
Yeah.
email lists that they're saying of how many hundreds of thousands of people they have, that those 17 spots are probably either gone. So I like that you stress the fact, because I believe in that too. It needs to be authentic. If you say this closes on a certain date and the price goes up, you need to honor that. People will respect it. They may get upset when they get there, but they will know that you, as a marketer, when you say it is closing or the price is going up as of this date, they know they better get it now, because that's how you run your business, with authenticity, and you're not doing this as a gimmicky sales thing just to get a sale. So
Yeah.
I respect that you work your and run your business that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think you have to think of the long term. If you're just trying to think of the today's sale, then you can use those tactics. But in the long term, you're going to undermine your credibility, and you're going to hurt your long term results. So yeah, definitely be authentic, and so that your audience can trust you, and you'll win in the long term.
Yeah, I'm glad you stressed that, and I can tell you obviously play the long game, Rob, because you've been doing this for over 20 years and you've been successful at it. So you are trying to be authentic, and to give great value, because no one stays around that long by just going for the sale constantly and pitching everything under the sun. Now, I
Yeah,
want to go back. I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, no, that's it. Carry on.
No, I want to go back now. In the beginning, there's a couple things. One of them I heard, and I thought this was cool. I listened to an interview that you gave, and you talked about the very first trip you took with your family to Ireland as a digital nomad. And, you had to run your business while you were there. But again, as we go back, this is more the wild, wild west time, where there wasn't high speed internet everywhere. You didn't have access in hotels, and you had to run your business with these limited resources. Kind of share that story, what you had to do to continue to run your business while you were traveling in Ireland with your family.
Okay, sure. So this, I think, may well have been the world's first digital nomad trip, as far as I know. This was the late 1990s, and I just started my first online business, and all of a sudden I had this freedom where I could actually work while I was on vacation, or at least I could take a vacation while I was working, which was a kind of a novel concept. So we wanted to kind of try it out. So as you say, I went to Ireland with my family, and we had a great trip. But I needed to get online once in a while to check email and keep on top of the business, make sure everything was running okay. But in those days, it was still very much the early days of the internet, and less than half of people were actually online. And there were no internet cafes, there were no co-working spaces, there's no Wi-Fi. So in those days, the only way I could get online is we'd kind of rock up into a new town somewhere, and I'd stop at a house or a farmhouse, I'd knock on the door and ask them if they had the internet, and offer them, I think it was 10 Irish pounds in those days, if I could use their internet for an hour or so to check my email and do what I needed to do. And some people didn't have the internet, and some people would say, we do, but no thanks. And other people would invite us in for a cup of tea, and away we go. So it kind of worked, but it was a very clunky way of doing things compared to nowadays, when you can just get a SIM card in a new country, and your phone works fine, and you can get on the internet, and there's co-working spaces everywhere, and so on. It was a much more difficult way of doing things, but it compared to being tied to my office in London, it was very liberating. So it was a whole new step forward and very interesting, and I could really see that had potential to change the way we live and work.
Absolutely. Now, I've got to ask this. I shared your story that you just told here, which I think is awesome. I love the fact because people now that are struggling and stuff online don't realize the bigger struggles in the very
Mhm.
beginning that people had to go through. We take all these, you know, resources that are available now and the high speed internet that's pretty much everywhere for granted now. So when I shared your story with my wife, she came up with these questions. So I'm going to ask on her behalf here, Rob.
Okay.
Did you ever find it where someone said, "Yeah, come on in, I'll take the money, thank you, and you can go ahead and use my internet," and find out that maybe you're in some remote area and you couldn't really use it like you wanted? She wanted to know, did they ever give the money back to you if you couldn't get a connection with it?
Um, okay, well, I don't, we didn't have any total fails, but this is the days when it was the old dial-up connections. So every connection was slow, and there was no high-speed internet anywhere. So it was just a question of it working at all. And sometimes it would take a while, and we'd be there trying to get the modem connected, and you'd be sitting there with the old whistles of the modem clicking and trying to connect. But it usually worked out okay, and the Irish people were very friendly, and all my kids would go in and play with their kids, and sometimes we end up staying for a few hours and stay for dinner, and we all got on really well. So it was never easy. It was always a painful, slow process. Like, but even once you got online, just trying to upload a new page could take you 5-10 minutes just to upload a simple file. But that's the way it was. So as long as I got the job done and kept on top of things, it was okay.
That's great. I love that entrepreneurial spirit of we'll figure it out and we'll make things happen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
Now, a lot of
So
people, I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say. So from there, that's from that trip that then led to us thinking we could, if we could do it in Ireland, we could do it anywhere, and that ended us up. We decided to go international, and we left the UK and emigrated to Australia. And we had similar experiences there in a different way, in that for a while we were traveling around Australia. Trying to figure out exactly where we wanted to live long term. And every time we moved, I had to get an extra phone line installed in our new house or new apartment so that I could get online. You couldn't just kind of plug in and go. I really had to have a second phone line installed. So it just moving to a new town was a major obstacle. It would have to be kind of planned weeks in advance and was quite expensive, but it worked. So that was fine.
Yeah, that's great. How many different countries have you worked in through your travels over the years?
It's over 50 now, probably get on towards 60. And I just love the fact that you have the freedom to go anywhere you want and uh, have new experiences, see new parts of the world, and still be able to get online and run your business. I love the way you can kind of blend your personal and your travel and your business life together, and it works just fine.
Yeah, and I think that's a great concept because a lot of people tend to separate that. I have my work life, I have my family life, and then we do personal things and travel. But you've been able to combine that and make it a whole lifestyle, everything combined, which I think is fantastic. And I know a lot of people are interested in that, especially nowadays. At the beginning, and everybody has this, I see a lot of people have this fear that holds them back. One is the security of leaving a full time job and going, online full time, creating your own business. How did you handle the fears of leaving that security, things that came up? How did you deal with those, whether it was books you read or things you learned from someone growing up, maybe your parents? How did you handle those fears that came up during this new venture and process of transitioning?
Yeah, for me, it was never really a question because I always had this kind of entrepreneurial spirit. So for me, the fear was more of being stuck in the same job for 40 years. That was what I was afraid of. So the thought of going out and starting my own business, I didn't find at all worrying. Of course, it wasn't always easy, especially back when I was a freelance writer. Uh, Income was uncertain. You might have a great month one month, and then the next month the work dries up and you're scratching around trying to find clients and business. But and that was okay when I was younger and it was just me or myself and my wife. But once we had children and we had a mortgage and a family support, that it was more challenging, definitely. But I still would never have gone back to a full-time job. I like the challenge of getting out there, making things happen, finding clients, doing business. And then when the internet came along and that opened up a whole new way of marketing and running a business, I was just fascinated by the whole thing. And even so today, you still get times when it's not easy and you get problems with Facebook or Google or whatever driving you crazy. But I still wouldn't want to go back to doing a regular 9 to 5 job.
Yeah, every whether you're an entrepreneur doing your own business or you're working for someone, there's always going to be challenges and things that come up. But like you said, the fear of working a 9 to 5 and being stuck in that was greater than any fear you had of the unknown of building a business online in this new type of internet world that was becoming of age. Now, did you have many mentors along the way that helped you build this, or are you the type that kind of figure stuff out as you go and kind of do your own research?
Yeah, I've mostly figured things out on my own. There are some great marketers out there that I've learned from over the years. Certainly in terms of copywriting, some of the old school copywriters, that the kind of principles they taught are still really valid today. And one of my favorites in that respect, I think a really interesting story to check out is one of the earliest copywriters of all is a guy named Claude Hopkins. And if you go to Amazon and search for, I think it's Claude B. Hopkins, he's got two short books which you can buy in one volume, and he talks about marketing like 100 years ago. So even by kind of uh, any standard is very basic technology that he had to work with. He even had a steam powered car, so he was doing stuff a long time ago. But the principles of sales and marketing were still the same then, even though he didn't have the names for them, the things that we understand, like social proof and split testing, which we understand as being basic in marketing principles. He had to work those out for himself. I find that's a really interesting story that when you go back that far in time, everything is the same. The principles are the same, and it's only the technology that's changed. And we're just so fortunate now to live in this world where we have these amazing tools where you can reach almost anybody on the planet, and most people have a smartphone, and wherever they are, you can be marketing to them and making them offers and hopefully changing their lives. So it's a fantastic world in all kinds of ways.
Yeah, I agree. And what is your perspective, Rob, on this? I mean, you've seen, like I said, this 20 plus year growth on here, and you can debate different things. You can say, hey, at the beginning it was hard. We didn't have all the tools, the resources, the fast internet. And then you can go to the other thing today and say, hey, yeah, we have all these great resources now. It's easier to get online. There's cheaper resources. There's ways to do it. But now it's so saturated. So there's a lot of competition. Do you think it's easier now, considering all the factors now, than what it was compared to what when you started? What's your opinion on that?
I'd say the best time ever to start an online business or any kind of business is absolutely right now. Uh, yes, for sure, it is competitive, but the all the tools and the training and the technology we have access to now, and all the data that's available, it's kind of revolutionary. So poor old Claude Hopkins from 100 years ago, he would love to have had Facebook ads and the amazing targeting we can do, where you can laser target exactly the right people and present them an offer, things like that. This is a whole new world, and it just opens up amazing opportunities. And yes, it's competitive, but you should never think of competition as a bad thing. If there are competitors in your market, that just shows there's money to be made, or they wouldn't be there. And all you have to do is you have to be better than the next guy. So there are always opportunities, and I think there'll be more millionaires and billionaires created now in the next few decades than any time in history. So yeah, if you want to start a business, you definitely should not think, oh, it's too late. I've missed a boat. It's too saturated. Quite the opposite is true. Now is the time to get in. It's just going to get better and better. So yeah, definitely jump in with both feet and get started right away.
Yeah, I'm on the same camp as you on that, Rob. I agree that it's a perfect time for it. And like you said, competition should not scare anyone off, especially if you're building an authentic business and you're providing value. You're going to be in it for the long term. There's going to be tons of people that are always going to come and go and looking for the quick hits or the overnight success and the easy push buttons. You're always going to have that, especially as things get easier, more affordable, and more options. But having a true online vision of looking for a long-term business that's sustainable, that can provide you that lifestyles, you're going to surpass everybody. So I totally agree on that. Now, if somebody's starting out, Rob, and they're like, yeah, I love this, I want to do this, I want to go full time, what do you recommend for people nowadays? I know there's a lot of different options, but what is your opinion of what you would recommend for someone to start to create a digital online business?
That's a very difficult question to answer. Like you say, there are so many options, and they're all valid. When you look at e-commerce, Amazon just going from strength to strength, and Amazon FBA is a fantastic opportunity. Or you can do your own kind of drop shipping style e-commerce with Shopify, whatever. All those are fantastic, and growth is huge there. But also things like creating online courses or doing online coaching. All those things are also working really well if you figure out how to do it. So I think there isn't, I wouldn't say there's one thing, well, wow, you should go into this kind of business. And I think what you have to do is find what's right for you, what's a good fit with your kind of personality, your skills, and your experience, what you feel comfortable with, and make that work for you. The most important thing I would say is to focus on one thing. It's really tempting to be distracted by the next shiny object and keep hopping from one project to the next. You start one project, and that doesn't quite make the money you thought it was going to. So rather than stay focused on that and make it work, you hop to something else and start again, and then again you hop to something else, and you end up with 10 half-finished projects which aren't making any money. And you're much better off finding that one thing and then zeroing in and working hard on that and making it work, and you can do really well. And that could be in any one of thousands of different niches or kinds of business.
Yeah, and I like how you said the one thing. I think that's highly important that someone focuses because there are so many shiny objects and new things that are popping up that like, oh, that sounds good. Oh, that sounds good. Like you said, you have a dozen things that are partially done and not one that's producing any income for you. So I like that path of focusing on one thing, getting that going, and then if you want to expand from there, you can do that. So let me ask you this on the question, and again, there's so many different options and stuff. But if somebody's relatively new and not really, is it easier, or maybe there's no difference? I just want your opinion on this. To maybe stay with like an online creating something digital or going through Amazon, or is there any difference, or maybe easier to offer a service to an offline business to help them with their digital marketing? Do you see any difference in that, or an easier entry for somebody that's new?
Yeah, I would say maybe as a first step, if you need to make some money quickly, or you want to get started making money online, then offering some kind of service is a quick way to go. So if you're maybe a writer, or you have some kind of marketing skills, or some kind of skill which you can offer on a consultancy basis, then that's a really good way to start it. You can use that to pick up maybe three or four clients fairly quickly, and that those clients could produce enough income for you to replace your day job income, and then you can quit your day job, and now you're free to travel with your laptop, whatever you want to do. And then from there, you might want to figure out if you're happy to continue doing it, that's fine. A lot of people build up kind of marketing consultancies, whatever. That's a great way to go. But you might want to think about turning those skills into some kind of package, which you offer as a coaching program, so that rather than having to scale up with loads of clients which all need servicing individually, you have one program that you create, and people buy that one program, and then you have the leverage and the scalability, which is much harder to get if you're doing a kind of service-based business. So both approaches work. And yeah, certainly if I had to start from zero right now and find some money quickly, I would probably do some kind of service business, which for me would be copywriting, and then use that as a way to generate some income, and then start a different kind of coaching or training business from there, or maybe move into e-commerce or whatever.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Rob. I think that's a great path because that allows someone to generate an income to replace their job. And then from there, like you said, transition into creating your own assets that you have that you can sell online while you're sleeping and not necessarily have to manage physical clients. More you can respond to people through email or have a support ticket or things of that nature. So I think that's a good transition and a way for someone to start out and actually grow it in transition to an online business. Now, do you have a lot of employees, or do you do? I shouldn't say a lot of employees, but do you have any employees, or do you mainly use outsourcers, or do you do most of it yourself?
Yeah, I have outsourcers. Some of them have been working with me for over 10 years. So they're around the world, some in the Philippines, some here in Thailand, where I am now, and others in Australia, UK. So some of those are full-time employees who work for me remotely, but as full-time employees, and others are freelancers I work with as and when needed. And it's great now you have this flexibility that you can get all the skills you need. I love the fact that you can find exactly the right person for the job rather than being constrained by finding an employee or a freelancer who's within like an hour's drive of your office. Now it's possible to work with someone on the other side of the planet. As long as they have the skills you need, you can work together. So I like working with a virtual team. It does have its kind of challenges. You have to learn how to manage people remotely and get things done, and how to create that kind of team spirit. But it does work if you get good at it, and it's a fun way to run a business. So yeah, I love having my virtual team, and we have a good community. We meet up once in a while in different places around the world, and it's a fun way to operate.
That's great. It truly is a global world now. It's amazing how, like, for example, we talked before this. You're into China right now, and you're already. It's Friday morning for you already, so
Yeah,
we're still having
I'm in
this
the future.
conversation across the globe. It's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's great. It's great. I love the fact we can have clients on the other kind of planet, and business partners and affiliates, and we can work together. And technology is getting better and better. I love the different services we have to stay in touch, and it's certainly it's changed everything and made it so it really has shrunk the world to a smaller place, and made it easy to build the perfect team and get things done.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, do you have any resources or things you can recommend to individuals that want to start looking for outsourcing? Is there certain platforms you use or anything of that nature?
So I use to find outsourcers. I often use onlinejobs.ph. I find great. I love people in the Philippines. I find they're really great to work with, and very talented people, and they speak great English. I also use things like Upwork to find people, and there are so many services now. There are literally hundreds of platforms where you can find writers, designers, and so on. So there are plenty of people out there, and you can find some really skilled operators. Uh, so I think it's good to uh, you have to stay on top of project management. I use Trello for project management. We've also used Basecamp, tools like that. So there are lots of tools out there you can use, and they really help you keep your team united and working together. And tools just keep on getting better. So there are new plugins and extensions and apps coming out all the time that just make it easier and easier to communicate globally. Certainly, I love Zoom for meetings, online video. I find Zoom is great. So there are all kinds of things you can use.
Yeah, there's tons of resources out there. Now, with this, like you said, you've got employees, you're traveling, you're trying to run your business. What do you do to organize your time, Rob? Because it's you. You don't have a boss that's saying you need to show up at this time and do this and complete these projects. How do you organize your time to complete and live this lifestyle?
Yeah, well, for me, I've been doing it for a long time. So ever since launched my first freelance writing career in my early 20s, that was the challenge. It is a skill you have to learn. You have to manage your own productivity. And for me personally, I work well kind of early in the morning. So I like to start early and be at my desk by about 7 a.m. working and try and get certainly any kind of writing work I like to do early in the day before uh, things get crazy. And then once that's done, I can catch up with all the emails and other communications later in the day and do whatever else needs to be done. So I find that if I make an early start and get the real work done early, then everything works well. It's if I make a late start for some reason, then one thing slides into another, and I often get to the end of the day and frustrated that I haven't finished all the things I want to do. So I try to be focused, but you do have to learn to keep away from distractions like YouTube. It's so easy that maybe you need a piece of fact if you're writing like a blog post and you need some information, you go to Google to check it out. Google leads you to YouTube, and you watch a YouTube video, and that leads you to another YouTube video, and before long you spent an hour watching funny cat videos. So that's a real temptation to do that, but you have to fight that and learn to be disciplined and focus on eating that frog, as Brian Tracy says. Get the hard work done first, and then do the easier things later in the day.
Yeah, that's another good book. I'm glad you brought that up. We'll have that in the show notes, but everybody should read that book. That is an effective way to manage time. He's Brian Tracy. I love his stuff. He's from sales to time management to everything. He's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Now, going back to let's talk a little bit more about like some marketing on here. What have you found? And again, these are generalities. I just want to know your experience because there's so many different options. But what has been effective for you for generating leads and sales? What platforms do you like to use based on maybe their ease, their targeting options, the quality of leads and sales that you're making from them?
Okay, so when I started my first online business, search engine optimization (SEO) was kind of the main way of generating visitors to your website, and it's still very interesting. But I'm also kind of wary about having all my eggs in the Google basket as it is nowadays. So I kind
Yes.
of moved away from that and started doing affiliate marketing, which was just getting started in those days, and did very well with as a merchant, sort of running my own affiliate program. That worked really well. But I think really you want to have an offer where you can afford to advertise. Um, it's a real problem if you're trying to sell, let's say, a course for less than $100, $99 or something, and you'll find that if you try to run ads on Facebook or whatever, that it might cost you $110 to get $100 sale. That's a real problem, because then, okay, you think I can't afford to advertise. I need to get free traffic. So then you find you're doing free posting all over social media, trying to get some clicks. You're trying to game Google and try and get some rankings, and that's a real hard way to build a business. You need to have, I would say, a higher value offer, which gives you a budget so you can afford to run ads on various different platforms and generate business that way. And if you can do that, then you have a scalable business that you can really grow. So you don't want to be trapped in a low ticket offer, which leads to difficulty in advertising. If you've got something that you could afford to spend money on advertising and the numbers add up, that's when you have a real business.
Yeah, what about the people that say it's hard to sell a high ticket item compared to a low ticket item?
Well, I don't think it is. Really, long as you have the right offer, it's all about offering value. And you can sell a high ticket offer as long as you're offering real value. And basically, the greater the transformation you have in someone's life, the more you can charge. So if you're selling some kind of uh, coaching program, then if you can, let's say, help someone quit their boring $40,000 a year job and launch an online business that makes $250,000 a year, that's got to be worth $10,000. No one's going to have a problem with paying that if they believe you can deliver. And the same with other kind of offers. It might be whether it's relationships or health or whatever. If you're delivering that kind of transformation in people's lives, then you can definitely have a high ticket offer and deliver great outcomes, and you have happy customers, and it makes the numbers add up so much better if you've got high ticket sales. So that's definitely a really good way to go.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think if you have the right offer, like you said, and you're targeting the right audience, then you're not going to come into the struggles. But if you have a great offer, but you're targeting the wrong audience for it, you're going to struggle as well that way, So either one of those, your audience or your offer, has got to be both on target to do that, no matter what you're selling, but especially if you're doing a higher ticket item.
Yeah,
Now, what about
so yeah, but and really, you only need a very small audience. You can absolutely laser focus on a very small group of people who have the particular problem you want to solve. But if you have a high ticket offer, you don't need many customers to create a really good business. So the math just works so much better.
now? Is Facebook one of your best platforms for targeting and reaching for your advertising?
Yeah, I think Facebook has created the world's best advertising machine. It's it's an amazing sales machine. So because the targeting is so good, and the option and just the reach, the fact you can reach almost anybody anywhere and advertise to them is quite extraordinary. So yeah, it's always one of the go-to platforms. So certainly of Facebook and also Instagram as well. The fact that you can reach that massive combined audience through Facebook is quite amazing, and the the technology behind the platform is getting better and better all the time. All the options are improving, and the fact that you can do retargeting and lookalike audiences and all these things, they just really explode the potential, and it's fascinating business to be involved with.
Yeah. Do you think that would be a good place to start for someone who's wants to do the advertising route for their marketing? Would be to start with Facebook as opposed to maybe Instagram or YouTube or anything?
Yeah, I would. For me, I think it's the best platform with the best options and the biggest reach. So it's not easy. You have to acquire the skills. You can't just put up any ads and expect to get results. So you need to have a little budget to experiment with and figure out what works. But once you kind of get the system of once you understand that you need to laser target your audience, and you need to have an offer that's on point, and you need good copywriting, strong images, and good creatives, whether it's video or whatever. Once you acquire those skills, then you have the opportunity to reach a massive audience.
Now, with all your testing and experience, Rob, what have you found has been for you the most effective when creating marketing funnels? Kind of what is your outline?
I think the most important thing with sales funnels is to be congruent all the way through. When I do some consultancy for people who need help with their campaigns, one of the biggest mistakes I find they make is that their ad doesn't match their landing page, which doesn't match their follow up emails. The kind of the offer is not consistent all the way through. So you need to be consistent. You need to figure out what is the pain point that what's the problem that you're trying to solve. What keeps your customers awake at night? That's the biggest question. And if you can answer that, and then follow all that all the way through your sales funnel, you'll find they're very much more effective.
Do you find a simple sales funnel be effective instead of all these fancy elaborate ones?
Yeah, I don't go for crazy complicated ones. You can, it's easy to create something that's overcomplicated. And again, that's another advantage of doing high ticket offers is you don't need to stack up all these complicated numbers of upsells and cross sells and downsells to make the maths work. You can have a much simpler offer. So that's definitely an attraction of higher ticket um, pricing. But the main thing is to have a really good value offer that solves a problem and offers real value to the customer, and then it should work.
How important nowadays, Rob, is it to still have, a ton of bonuses and things for your offer? Is it as necessary, or if you have a tight, great offer, you don't need as many to load in there?
Yeah, I've never been a fan of stacking up all these kind of unrelated bonuses just to seemingly add some kind of value. I find bonuses can work really well if they are directly related to the offer and they add something extra to it. But I don't think there's any need to go crazy of just offering a long list of bonuses just to try to make what you have seem more valuable. The main thing is to have a great product and just use bonuses to add additional value that's absolutely focused on your main offer.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. That's one of the things that frustrates me is when you see a ton of bonuses, but they're just a lot of them are unrelated to what the product is. So it's like I don't need all that garbage.
No,
I want something
yeah,
that's going to be a bonus, that's going to add value, make it easier, something to what I'm actually purchasing instead of just, oh, I got you 50 different bonuses that are unrelated to what you're trying to do with this just to give you a ton of value, supposedly. And to me, I think value is going to be something that's going to be relevant. So I think it comes back to what you talked about, Rob, that consistency in your advertising, consistency in your funnel, consistency in your message, consistency in your emails. All throughout is going to be so powerful and make it more streamlined and less complicated to build that sales funnel.
Yes, and I think a mistake marketers often make is thinking that volume is important, that they need to have not just one thing to sell, but like you say, these 10 different bonuses. Just look, you get all this stuff as if that's going to make it more valuable. But in fact, the opposite is true, because we all live in a world of kind of information overload. So if you're doing, let's say, some kind of training course, then people don't want 200 hours of video to watch. They haven't got time. They would rather have 2 hours of video that solves their problem, and they're done. And that's what they want. And you can still charge a good price for that if it solves their problem. It's not about having sheer volume of content.
Yeah, that's an important point. I'm glad you brought that up. Now, throughout the years, and I don't even know if you do it now, do you coach many people or is that part of your business plan or is that something you did in the past?
Yeah, it's actually become part of my business unintentionally, but so because I travel around the world quite a lot, and I go to kind of digital nomad conferences and other online market events, and then I get to talk to people and tell them my story, and then they can ask me, "Well, how do you do that? I'd like to do that as well. Do you do some kind of coaching on or mentoring on how to do this?" So for a long time, I just said, "No, I don't do that," and then eventually I realized, oh, well. actually, maybe I should be. There's obviously a need for it. So for the last couple of years, I've been helping people get started with their online business, with kind of doing some coaching and mentoring. And I found that really rewarding. That I love the fact that I can help people completely change their lives, quit their boring job, escape some cold city and move to a somewhere on the beach on the other side of the planet, that kind of thing. It's very rewarding, and I'm always amazed at the sheer variety of businesses that people create. There are so many opportunities, but people find businesses in little niches that I thought never could be a business, but it turns out they turn it into a good money maker. So you certainly shouldn't be constrained by what you read online as, or you can do A, B, C, D, or E. There are loads of other options which haven't been invented yet, which you can do. So certainly, coaching people I've found really rewarding, and it's great helping people find that their own personal niche and do whatever their passion is and make a living at it.
Yeah. Now, what do you think are the biggest differences between the people that struggle to make money online and the ones that are able to build a successful and sustainable online business?
Yeah, so a lot of people would love to run an online business, but they just can't make the leap. They just can't quite quit their job and take the risk of starting it. So a lot of it has to do with kind of personality. You do need to have that kind of entrepreneurial spirit, or at least be ready to find it, to have the courage to be ready to take the leap and give it a go. But I would say the main thing is focus, to find your niche, find what you want to do, and then get really good at doing that one thing. It's better to be really good at doing one thing than quite good at doing 10 different things. And that'll really make the difference. You just need to be a little bit better than your competitors, and you can absolutely crush it in your market.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I ask a lot of people, and I want to get your opinion on it too. There's different camps on this, Rob. Some people are like, focus on your strengths, what you're good at, double down on that, stay in your lane, outsource or get other people to help you with the things that you struggle or aren't as good with. And there's other people that say, "Man, I want to be more well-rounded. I'm good at these things and I'm going to work on improving these other areas." What are your thoughts around those two different camps? Should one stay more focused on what they're good at and outsource and get other people to do the other things, or should one say, "No, work on the things that you're not as good at"?
Yeah, I think the answer is somewhere in the middle. That yeah, you should definitely leverage your strengths. If you should figure out what you're good at and make the most of that, and where you're weak is a good idea to find people who have those kind of strengths. But at the same time, you do always want to be improving your skills. I'm a great believer in personal development, so there's nothing to stop you from continuously improving, and I think you should definitely be working on that. Uh, every day. But yeah, I would definitely start off by leveraging your natural strengths and bringing other people to fill in the gaps, but then trying to build on those existing strengths and get better at more things over time. So your skills should improve, but you always work better as if you have a team rather than trying to do everything yourself. You can't be good at everything.
Yeah, and that's the hard part I think is people starting out if they don't have a lot of money to build their business, they're wearing all the different hats. And I think it's making that leap to say, you know what, if I took some of this money and I paid someone to do this or that or hired an outsourcer or something like that, it would free up your time to do other things that would help generate the income. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, it does. Yeah, and especially if you find yourself doing kind of basic admin kind of work, let's say social media marketing, that you could pay someone $5 an hour to do. If you're spending 10 hours of your time every week doing that, then you're working for $5 an hour. So is that really what you want to do? You want to think, even if you're on a tight budget, it's worth outsourcing that kind of work to a freelancer and outsourcer, so you can focus on the more strategic and important tasks in growing the business.
Absolutely. Now, over your 20 plus years, I'm sure there's been struggles or things that you may consider a failure. I like to call them undesirable outcomes instead of failures,
Hmm.
but we all have them. But I think, Rob, that we can learn so much from those and sometimes even more than our successes, because success, you may not know why it came about, but from failures, you can look back, reflect on it, and grow. What would you say would be one of your biggest failures or undesirable outcomes throughout this 20 plus year journey? And what did you learn from it?
That's tricky. Let me see. So, yeah, I've certainly had some various projects that haven't worked out the way I wanted to, like say an undesirable outcome. I don't. There's no real one which stands out as being a major thing. I think every time if something doesn't work out, you want to sit down and work out what went wrong. Why didn't that project work out? And I would say very often it's because uh, I've realized that it's a mistake to try and sell something instead of trying to solve a problem. If you're focused on helping people and you see that people have a problem and then you help them solve that problem, then you're probably going to succeed. But if you just think, I want to make some money, what can I sell? And then come up with an idea and try and go out and sell it. That's a really hard way to run a business. And that way you're heading towards those undesirable outcomes. So I think you want to start with your customers first and really understand their problems and how you can solve them, and then you're much more likely to get a desirable outcome.
Yes, absolutely. Now, are you a big book reader, Rob?
Yeah, I love to read books. Yeah, especially now that we have kind of ebooks, Kindle books, and so on. I've read more books than ever before. It's so easy to just download another one and keep going. So yeah, books are great. We should all be trying to improve constantly, and I read pretty much every day.
Yeah, me too. I'm a big book fan. What are a couple big books that have had like the biggest impact on you that either you recommend or give to other people?
Yeah. So what do I like? There's The Miracle Morning. I think is a good book. Again, I like to start early in the day and get things done, and that book has kind of helped me focus on really making the most of that early part of the day. I can't remember the name of the author at the moment, but that's a really
I
good
think
book.
isn't it Hal Elrod,
Yeah, that
or am
sounds
I
right. Yep,
mistaken?
that's correct. Yep,
Yeah.
and also the One Thing. It's all about focusing on getting the important things done, getting your priorities right. I still love How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think that's a book that everyone should read. Again, it's an old book, but the principles are still equally valid today. And as you said earlier, Eat That Frog, Brian Tracy. That's a great way of getting the hard things done. Helps you get the hard things done so that you're actually more productive. So those are good places to start, I think.
Yeah, I'm familiar with all those books, and those are great recommendations. So I'll definitely have those in the show notes, so people who aren't familiar with them or want to get them can check those out. Couple few questions here for you, Rob, to close out here. What is a final message that you would want the mindset listeners to truly get about the entrepreneurial lifestyle, building an online business, and living the digital nomad lifestyle?
Okay. Well, I would refer back to Jeff Bezos, the CEO of Amazon, obviously now the richest person in the world. And he says it's still day one of the internet. We're just getting started. So if you think it's too late, you've missed the boat and you wish you got in 10 years ago or something, that's not true. It's happening right now. This is still day one. I think where we are now with the internet is where the auto industry was in the days of the Model T Ford, when things, at the time, the Model T Ford seemed to be the greatest car ever, and things can't get any better than this. But we've seen obviously a huge amount of change since then, and that was just the very early days. And the same with the internet. A lot's happened in the last 25 years, but it's still that's just phase one. And We got amazing things ahead of us. There's going to be amazing technology coming down the line. When you think like smartphones, we didn't have them 15 years ago. Now we can't live without them. And as marketers, it means we can now reach about 4 or 5 billion different people across the planet. Just to have this device in their hand every day, and we can reach them. That's an amazing thing. And there will be something else like that coming up 5 years, 10 years time. So it's a fascinating business to be in. The opportunities are great right now. They're going to get even better, and I just can't wait to see what comes next.
Great. Now, if anybody wants to connect with you, and what's the best way if they want to get maybe coaching from you or learn more about you?
It's best to go to gofreelance.com, and you can find the contact form there and contact me. I'll be happy to chat to anyone and give some advice, some ideas, and we can take things from there.
Perfect. Rob, thanks so much for the conversation, for sharing and going into depth about living the nomad lifestyle, what it takes to be an entrepreneur, and to shine also a light on the possibilities that still exist, that it's not too late, that now is a great time to start. So anybody that's thinking about it, hasn't started, or has started but hasn't taken it to the next level, listen to what Rob has shared during this interview here. Take notes, apply it, and jump into it, because like he shared with Jeff Bezos, it is still in its infancy. Because we've had it for so long and we're doing it, it just seems a norm. But like Rob said, there's so many things that are coming down the line that we don't even know that are coming out. New platforms, new resources, new tools to make everything easier, simpler, especially if you want to live that nomad lifestyle and to travel, enjoy time with your family, see the world, but also have a business that's going to create that lifestyle and allow you to do that. So I appreciate you sharing the great information here and taking the time. I know it's early in the morning, so you definitely are someone that wants to start early and get his day going. So I appreciate you taking the time. And until next time, guys, thanks for tuning into another episode. I appreciate you guys, and I wish you a brilliant life.
Okay, thanks, Brian. It was good fun.
Hey, guys, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I really and truly appreciate it. And if you enjoyed this episode and want to learn more about developing a strong, successful mindset, then go ahead and subscribe by clicking the I'm In button below this podcast. Each week, I try to deliver great content that you can learn and apply immediately to help develop a better mindset so you can build a great online business and hopefully a better life. So if you like what we're trying to do here at The Marketer's Mindset, then help us spread the message and give us a rating and review on iTunes so we can help more online marketers. Lastly, I want to hear from you. So if you have a topic you'd like us to discuss or an online marketer that you would like us to interview, then send me an email to brian@themarketersmindset.com. Thanks again. I love you guys. And until next week, take care, and I wish you a brilliant life.